All right, Cyber Traders, welcome on back here for another fantastic edition of our Traders Talk Workshop here this Monday, shortly after 12 o'clock Eastern Time. Great to have all of us here. October 21st is the date. Got Larry, got Nanda, got Joyce, got Kathleen, Margaret, Ravi, Marcelo. Let me expand my chat here. Got a lot of us just joining us here inside our live trading room, students and trial members alike. Great to have all of you there. Great to have all of us back on social media, at least otherwise. Let me type the YouTube up here in just a second here. I got a face for radio, prepping my face up actually for our Traders Summit in-person event coming up this week. I mean, I'm kidding when I say that, but we are looking forward to having all of our students with us at our on-site course here in Westbury, New York, coming up in just a few days' time from now. But if you're joining us on YouTube, Facebook Live, etc., Instagram, LinkedIn, X, etc., Cyber Trading U on YouTube. That's where we're streaming live each and every morning. We do a live workshop here every Monday, exclusive podcasts with Fausto and well-respected educators throughout the industry. But without further ado, I'll tell you what, this morning was it was kind of a typical Monday. Had a couple stocks that were up big, like 50, 70, 100% pre-market. Didn't really all make that great of a push. Actually, the one that took me for a small loss was the Lumen trade. That was actually up like 12, 15% pre-market. I was looking for a bounce. I got the bounce, but then it came back down and I tried to look for it again, and then I wiped out that win with a loss. So this one ended up going the other way. It's just to say that this was more of a typical Monday. Now, at that, though, there's actually a topic I wanted to touch upon here for Traders Talk for this week, because we've all seen Bitcoin make a pretty strong move over the last, couple weeks now at this point, and a lot of traders are gearing up for that big breakout. We're in the bull market to the point where we're going to break new all-time highs, possibly make a move up towards six-digit numbers there, 100,000 and plus. But, before I get to like targets and all of that, Bitcoin's move is affecting the whole stock market, and it's affecting, a few different tickers more than others, but in particular, just the ETFs and then the miners out there, right? So specifically, we'll talk about here IBIT, the BlackRock ETF, and then alongside that, all these different crypto Bitcoin mining companies that we are very familiar with here inside our live trading room. I mean, we've been trading Mara and Riot and now CleanSpark, among others, though, for a little while, really since last bull market about 4 years ago. So let me ask, let's say Leda, actually Leda not here right now. Leda's traveling right now. She's actually on the way to New York for our on-site event. If you were with us about 4 years ago, I got a bunch of us that were with us back then, at least Kathleen, Phil, got Larry, got a bunch of us at least, back 3-4 years ago, or if you're familiar with, the Bitcoin market back then, what could you very generally, very basically tell me about these stocks, about these Bitcoin-related stocks, the mining companies, anything to do with Bitcoin? I know some of us don't like them. Some of us don't like it because they're still not really confident about its use long-term. But we're going to talk more about the price action. We're going to talk about basically how to trade this because, well, whether you like it or not, we're going to be calling these stocks out quite often, I believe, over the next 6 months to a year. So we need to know about them, right? Because, of course, there are plenty of other fish in the sea to catch, but that's going to be the hot hand for a little bit. Listen, if you don't like Bitcoin, but you like AI, guess what? Bitcoin mining is dipping into AI. So, that's where we, at least at the minimum, at the bare bones minimum, we need to know how they trade, what to look for, their tendencies. A lot of us are saying volatile. Kathleen, Margaret, Joyce, absolutely. And Joyce actually saying, wow, I'll tell you what, I got new glasses. They're actually much better than the contacts I'm currently using right now. So I got to squint here. Joyce saying Mara, a reliable day trade. Yeah, absolutely. All of the mining companies typically can be great day trades. They're not always going to be up percentage-wise every day of the week. They're going to pull back. They're going to be, well, much like Margaret and Kathleen wrote before, volatile. But let's actually be more specific with volatile there. That's a great start. Well, if you look back 4 years ago, if you're not familiar with how these stocks traded 4 years ago, it's just that they were pop and drop moves, right? 2020. And you could say the same thing with a lot of the quote unquote COVID stocks back during this very same time. Well, you could even look back to 2017. Look what happened here 4 years before that, right? So these are pop and drop stocks. Go to Riot, which is another mining stock over the last 8 years at least, since 2017, up, down, 2020 into 21, up, down. So that is the pattern. They're not only just volatile, but they consistently make that pop and drop move, much like Bitcoin has. But this is to an even more significant extent. Um, we tend to see these stocks tend to drop off quite a bit, even though Bitcoin tends to hold flat or even begins to move back up over time. So that's where, for anyone new joining us here to CTU, or if you're new to like crypto or new to Bitcoin altogether, just keep in mind you don't want to get too euphoric thinking just only profits and everything's going to keep going up. I am firsthand proof for that because I ended up blowing a lot of what I had back 4 years ago onto like a leveraged position, and I thought I was going to get more, and I didn't. I got liquidated on some, and yeah, it didn't work out well. And it wasn't even on stocks. That was actually just on crypto altogether. So imagine what could have happened here if you were doing like an option call or whatnot. So right place, wrong time will be very costly for you if you're too euphoric. But basically that's the first thing I want to point out. They're pop and drop. They're volatile. Now, along with that, though, because of that, at least they can be really good day trades. They can be great swing trades, great long term for the next 3 months to 6 months, maybe the next year flat. But they are definitely going to be good day trades. All right. So in that case, that brings us to, well, right now, because it's not like Bitcoin's making a pop right now. Actually, this is the BlackRock ETF, IBIT. We'll get to this one in just a moment because I think a lot of us would be more comfortable trading this as opposed to like Bitcoin altogether. If you're coming from an investing background, if you're not really as keen to crypto, just knowing that BlackRock has their hand in it right now with this ETF, I think that a lot of you would feel more comfortable at least trading this over Bitcoin or all the other stuff. So we'll get to IBIT in just a bit. But it's just to say that this isn't going anywhere. And if this isn't going anywhere, my belief right now, live as we're talking, Bitcoin isn't going anywhere. Well, why is this going somewhere? Why is this stock Wolf going somewhere right now, right? CLSK in the morning had a little bounce. We were calling this out at first. There's still a chance for this to try and break a higher high later on today and get going. Irene was a pretty good bounce earlier this morning. We had it from Friday afternoon as well. So these mining stocks have been good trades today, and they're going to remain great day trades going forward. So that's going to basically tie me back to this, and we'll go back to Wolf here to begin and say, well, what are the answers to the questions here on this test? Where are the levels that we should be most focused on in order to try and jump in? I mean, it's easy to say that this moved up. It's easy to say, oh, if you like crypto, you could have just jumped in here and you could have hung on. That's not going to be so easy in 6 months, 8 months, a year from now, because again, there's going to be divergence and there's going to be a total drop off period over time. So you can't just, buy and hold on everything. Not everything is going to move perfectly the same at the same time. So at least for this miner Wolf, why is this moving when the other mining stocks aren't up as much? They're not trending as well. Well, largely, you could possibly say news. You could possibly say news with that. So actually, I want to give a quick shout to one of my guys I follow on Twitter, on X, Mike Alfred. He's actually on the board of directors for Irene. He told me so. He's saying that TerraWolf, WULF, they have an AI deal announcement likely this week. Likely, so speculation, rumor, not official. But that was from earlier this morning, and 1 + 1 = 2 to me. This stock has completely taken off. It has already. So we were calling this out during our audio broadcast, right? Rich was posting some, book viewer shots. We were talking about the higher high movement here. All right, well, let's say if you started focusing on this trade by like 10:15 or so, 10 o'clock in the morning, right around here, you don't want to just jump in. What's easy to say in hindsight is that this stock pulled back before it made a higher high later on. So you're trying to get a very efficient price as a day trade. If you're looking at this long term and if you're just throwing a dart on the wall hoping it lands, then odds are you'll be right with the general movement of this going up pretty soon. But it's just, here's a day trade. Well, there's a couple of options. And it's the same type of options that we go through every week in Traders Talk for every stock that we trade. Doesn't matter what sector it's in, doesn't matter what they're affiliated with. It could be AI, Bitcoin, pharma, it could be EV, it could be anything. Let me ask. Randy, Sam, Jason, Pete, Chris, Ravi, all of us here joining us. Stock breaks over resistance and it runs after breaking resistance. Resistance should look to initially flip into what? All right, support. Now, of course, we need to know where that resistance was that got broken over. Where are the big levels, right? So that's where we're going to use level 3. We'll use level 4, my heat map program here. So I will tell you, there is resistance at $6. 121,000 share sell order, much larger earlier here today, about 182 plus thousand shares that were out there at 6. All right, well, the stock was moving up to that price. Now, we have to ask, where is a big level? Where do we have a big level on this page aside from 6? I mean, that's an iceberg level. Doesn't seem like there's any other icebergs on this heat map. No other orange or red lines. Lynn and Randy saying 550. Gillis saying 525. Michael saying 560. Gillis, let me ask you first, my friend. Gillis, one of our gold students. Why 525 for you? Just want to hear from Gillis specific. Why 525? Inside our live trading room right now. Feel free to join us, especially if you're on YouTube right now. Gillis says 930. There's a big ball, big volume dot. Absolutely. Well, that could create a strong level for this stock. It could. That's a great answer, and that's something I would look for normally. If it drops that low, maybe. There could be a price level above 522 that is perhaps even more significant, if not maybe just equally. Great answer, though. Michael saying 560. Looking forward to seeing Michael joining us at our Trader Summit coming up this week. Mike, are you already in Long Island, or are you just making the trip tomorrow? I'm making the trip tomorrow myself, flying from Florida. Why 560, Mike? If you don't mind answering that as well. Why 560? And Charlene as well. Both of them wrote 560. Michael flying in tomorrow. There we go. Safe travels. Wishing Lita safe travels right now. I think she's currently en route. He says the CVP column, right? Look at this. What the heck is this? You have a big volume buildup here off of 560, right? And then eventually it moved off of it. So for me, I'm sitting here thinking, all right, well, if there's a case for me to get in on this trade, I would imagine that there's a couple of levels. I mean, I reckon if it drops this damn low, then down to 522. But before it possibly has a chance of hitting that, there's a better level ahead at 560. I say better because it just sticks out that much more on the CVP, even compared to the open print. But what happens afterwards? Well, it's easy to say what happens afterwards. We know it moved up afterwards. But if trading was that easy, that it was, that simple to do real time, all the time on every freaking trade, I mean, if you're joining us on YouTube right now, you wouldn't be on a YouTube channel right now when you're watching the stuff. You'd know it already. If you're inside our live trading room, same deal, right? And I wouldn't be on a microphone. This is where I just like to say, if trading was so easy, like this every time, but this is where we focus on the exact step-by-step process that we just went through, in Traders Talk. That's where I just had all of our students ask first or answer first. When a stock breaks over resistance and runs, we all just answered resistance becomes support. All right, well, where are big levels? 560. Let me ask us here next. I think you know what's coming here. If you're more of a platinum or diamond student, at least a long-time C2 student, you probably know what's coming next. If I'm going to buy a stock, I'm going to look to buy a stock, go long. My best entries to buy a stock are directly after what? My best entries to buy a stock are directly after what? I'd like for you to finish that sentence for me if you can. Remember, it's the same catchphrase every time. I say the same kind of catchphrase every time. I compare myself to one of those like drawstring dolls. You pull the string from the back of the doll, you say the same 4 or 5 catchphrases. My best entries to buy a stock are directly after it breaks through a big level on the way up. Now, in this case here, if we're looking for support here, ideally, we need to see this break under 560 first And then once it can break back over 560, if it does, which is easy to say in hindsight, it does, but that's what you're ideally looking for in terms of seeing that buildup. Now, if it fails to make higher highs, if it fails to run off of it from here, then you're in trouble. If it doesn't make this move back up after, if it can't flip this next price into support next, right? Whatever the hell that is. Is it 585? You have a big print that came in. Oh, yeah. 337,000 shares that got filled right there at 584. I'll go over that more in phase two class just in a couple weeks after the Trader Summit, at least. But basically, just kept nipping this resistance here over time. The more it did, thankfully, easy to say, it kept going. But that's what happened here, right? It ended up flipping this resistance into a support. It took a little time, but in relation to what we teach and what we want you to focus on as a trader, this did pretty much everything you needed it to do. So, for joining us here as a new student, you might have like decade worth of experience following the stock market. If not, then certainly I'll just mention this to you even further. But you might have like a decade or two worth of experience within the market, and you might say, "All right, well, like this is pretty fast compared to what I'm normally used to here." Everything moving on the screen. I like to kind of like describe it as you got the bright colors, the fast moving numbers, all the different stocks. It's not even just this one that we had called out. There were a bunch of trades that were moving today. Not only just the Bitcoin stuff, but other trades. There, it Spirit Airlines made a move. IONQ made a nice pop. That's actually still going. But just to say, for this stock, it all comes down to, all right, well, let's see simple breakout over resistance. I would take the breakout over resistance if I was there for it. If I'm not there for that, and it already makes that move without me, well, much like you had answered my question, I'm going to look to see resistance flip into support. All right. So, next step within that protocol, within that process is, where are my levels? Where are my damn levels? If I don't have a level I could feel confident in, I'm not forcing one. If that didn't stick out so easily at 560, then I'm not as convinced that 560 would have been my support, right? This didn't stick out like a sore thumb. Now, let me get to a trade here. Otherwise, I don't want to jump around too much. I want to keep this more centralized around Bitcoin stocks. I had a few emails that were unattended from last week's Traders Talk about Bitcoin, and basically looking for targets long term or for the next 6 months, 12 months. But basically, TerraWolf here, I think that alongside the other miners, this is only going to continue to go up over time, long term. But if you're looking at this as a day trade, just keep in mind that you just got to keep seeing the same game being played out. Resistance breaking, resistance flipping into support, and then seeing higher highs at that point. So like now at this stage here, I'd rather not pull back down to 585 if possible. I'd rather just cleanly hold over this damn thing as support now. Now, really quick, we'll jump back to Bitcoin. I want to go to a trade that just it didn't work out. I thought it would have. It happens, right? You have a plan. It starts out okay. The foot's taken off the gas pedal. And if the foot's taken off the gas pedal, it's likely to come here, right? So, this is what happens here on Lumen, Lumn. News came out this morning. I was hyped about this. I didn't really see any sort of like money deal made in terms of like, how much it was worth. But Lumen came out with news with Meta, right? Obviously, Facebook Meta with AI, some partnership with Meta on AI development. All right, well, I'm sold. Thing just made a hell of a pop to begin pre-market session here. Good trade at the time. Now, we even went over this in our phase one classes just last week. If you joined me last week in phase one, you know that we went over the cyber clock, and you know that by 9:10, 9:15 in the morning, I'm out. I'm not, holding on to trades going into the market open, right? And really quick, just so you know that. Otherwise, here, let's see if I can get the slide open here in time. We're in teacher mode this week still. So this is the exact slide from class, 9:15 to 9:30. We're not holding anything going into the open. Allow the stock a chance to breathe and relax going into the open. Allow yourself the chance to breathe and relax going into the open. So it's easy to say is like, oh, this thing tanked right before 9:30. Then it kept dropping. So, what I was looking for on this stock is very, very similar to what we just went over earlier, just a moment ago. So I want you to answer this question for me. This stock had a pretty good pop to begin. Let's see if I can get it. There we go. That's kind of how I kind of had it lined up myself when I made the initial call out, at least. What price sticks out the most on that column there, CVP? What price sticks out the most on that column, CVP? Quick, just getting my timestamps ready here. What price sticks out there on that, CVP column? About 725, about 730-ish, right? Maybe kind of, or to kind of like be perfect here. What is it? 729, 728, maybe that is exactly. Right? All right, it stands out, sticks out pretty nice. Popped, moved up about 40 cents off of that thing, so 45 cents off of that thing. So I'm looking for this to become support. CVP stands for what? Chart range volume profile. Chart range volume profile. I go over that more in like the phase one class there. So you could see here, otherwise, Lumen 728. And, I was looking for that as support. And I said 8 is the next resistance, right? 728 is support. 8 is the next resistance. So 8 resistance, 728 for hopeful support. It kept going at the time. So that's where this morning I was looking for this to, dip as support. 728, right? Look at that. Broke under, broke back over. I took this trade. I jumped in at first off of 728. I ended up taking this trade twice. So I walked out at first with a win. It pulled back below 750, and I cut ties with it as it pulled back here. Got out at like 744, 743. It was money. I wanted more. Didn't look like it was giving it to me right then and there. Said, all right, let me take a little money for a Monday. But I tried it again. It actually, made another quick under and over exactly right off that price. And from this standpoint, this looks like a nice W pattern building, right? It looks like it's starting to build. There's a case for this to try and go. But let me ask all of us here in chat, another catchphrase, another Josh catchphrase, I'll call it. Once I jump into a trade, when a stock breaks through a big level and I jump in, just very simply put, what am I expecting shortly after? Big move, right? I'm expecting a big move shortly after. When a stock breaks through a big level and I jump in, I should be expecting a big move shortly after. Now, I let my bullishness get the best of me on this trade because it started off good. Okay. Whoa. Hold up. No, no. And then it dropped. So that's basically what happened. Started off good. It was a good trade, good setup. But listen, if it's not going to make that big move in your direction, I would put my trading account on the line and tell you it's going to make a big move just the opposite way, just the opposite direction. The way that I would be wrong in that event and blow up my account there is if I were to hold on, right? So you don't want to hang on to anything that's starting to go in reverse for you. Now, if we go back to Wolf, the same is to be said. Like, it's like, all right, well, if it's not going to hold over 560 here, it's going to just start off okay, then come back down. And guess what? This is going to make a lower low as much as Lumen just did before. So for any of my people on like YouTube right now, if you're inside our live trading room, if you're very euphoric about crypto, you hear me talk about it, just realize we got to be rational human beings at times too, right? And probably a lot more often than otherwise. So that's where I'd say that we still have to focus on just basic trend, basic support resistance, flipping, and that's it. So on a long-term level, obviously, we can look at that on the long-term graphs, the daily, the weekly chart. But just know right now, we're in just the beginning of this bull market long-term. I think that for the next 6 months or so, give or take, probably give a little more there, probably 6 to 8 months, maybe 10 months, but just we're in good territory. Just at this stage as a day trade, you don't want to blow up your account, though, just by being too euphoric long term. Great to have Patrick joining us here. Patrick G on YouTube right now. Just again, at Cyber Trading U. Just join us on there on YouTube. Stream this live every Monday afternoon. But we also encourage you to join us inside our live trading room. Scan that QR code just on YouTube right there. You can do it the old-fashioned way. Go right down to the bottom with that blue link right there, c2.co/trial. But we're not done just yet on Bitcoin. We're not done just yet on like the mining stocks and IBIT. So to get back to like Wolf, well, this one we kind of just finished up with at least. flipping of 6 now into potential support. If it pulls back under this pretty quickly, then I'd say for at least today, for this Monday, then probably game over for right now. Check back in on it tomorrow. Irene clearly isn't making the same move though, right? And Mara clearly isn't making the same move. This is down 4% today. So let's actually use this just as a quick comparison, comparing the two. Obviously, one may have news, whereas the other simply may not, right? All right, well, easy to say that Wolf popped and we could have made money on that. But before we even begin any decision with buying and big levels, we got to focus on tradable, trend, and trap, right? Before we even trap, it's just tradable and trend. So we know MAR is tradable, and we just say that from just kind of focusing on this trade every day, every week. We do call the stock out quite a bit. So just very quickly, it is for me to tell you this stock meets the criteria for tradable. All right. Well, quick question, folks. What's the trend of the stock from 8 o'clock going into 9:30? Just only from 8 o'clock to 9:30, even. That, I mean, obviously you could use more than that here, but what I look for is what's the recent trend of the stock leading into the market open, leading into the market open. So from 8 o'clock or 8:30 going into the market open at 9:30, right there. What is that trend? I'm not trying to toss a curveball at you here. I'm not trying to have you say down, then up, then down, then up. From 8 o'clock, it was at 1890. Going into the market open, it's at like 1865. It is down, right? The stock was trending down from 8 o'clock going into the market open. When a stock is dropping, folks, what type of pressure are we seeing more of? Are we seeing more buying pressure? Are we seeing more selling pressure? Selling. Absolutely. Absolutely. We're seeing more selling pressure. Maybe support didn't get broken through just yet, but we're seeing certainly selling pressure as this is making lower highs and it's dropping down a bit, right? All right, bear with me for a split second here, if you don't mind. Just give me a split moment here. Just fancying my book map a certain way here. All right, there we go. So going into the open, we see it dropping. This is Mara. So if you're bullish, you're like, oh, okay, this is gonna be a good day trade today. It's Miner Monday, as they call it on Twitter. A Miner Monday. All right, this is gonna take off. Well, we have to say, where are the big levels? Where are my big support resistance lines? So what do we got, folks? We got Anton in our live trading room. We got Kathleen, Marcella, Dave, Jason. We got Paul. We got Brian. We got Joyce. We got Laureen. Shout out some other names here as well over time. We got Martin. We got David. Great to have you here. We got Ash. So where do you see these like dark orange lines stretching across the page? Where do we see these dark orange lines stretching across the page here from left to right? What do we got? 1915, right? I mean, that's actually smack in the middle there, it looks like, right? 1914, 1915. Yeah, right there. We're all correct with that. Absolutely. I would also say, as an answer, 1850. 1850, it's about 17,000 shares. Shows up here going into the market open. It's here beginning from 7:19 Eastern as well. So for about 2 hours and 20 minutes back, basically. So 1850 support, 1915 we'll call it basically as resistance. Anything else? Let's re-ask that question. Anything else? We said 19. Oh, we didn't say 1950. Okay, well, yeah. Hint, look down the CVP column. If this were to have popped, then I'd say 1950 would have been a potential price there. But 1915, 1915, that was the larger resistance anyway. But on the CVP column, what do we got here? Michael, Marcella, Gillis from before, Sam, Dennis, 1880. That sticks out there quite a bit. This is about 4 hours worth of consolidation, 3.5 hours worth of consolidation. So let's put some lines down here. We got 1880. 1915, which I don't think that hit. And then 1850 as our first line of support here on the way down. After that, well, I guess 1750, right? Like this thing sticks out quite a bit. We didn't go that low. So before we worry about 1750, let's, worry about 1850 first. Let's worry about 1880. All right. So market opened up. Ding, 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 ding. First 5 minutes, we don't trade. Wait the first 3 to 5 minutes. We're not taking anything. Long, short, you name it. We're not jumping in at first. So what happens? Well, within that first 5 minutes, this ends up holding under 1880 perfectly. There's not even a break over it for you to try and take, right? Best entries to buy a stock directly after it breaks through the big level. So there's not even a breakout here for you. It's still within the first 5 minutes, but there's just nothing happening to even lure you in. Now it comes down. It was already nipping support, nipping support, nipping. The more times we keep seeing support getting, tested, nipped at, pushed, it's going to get completely broken through, right? Well, much like you had answered to begin Traders Talk for us here, I want you to answer this next one. You know where I'm going. When a stock breaks below big support and it crashes, that support should initially look to become resistance. And if you're looking for a breakout, you're looking for a pop, Bitcoin's going to take off the miners. It's Miner Monday. I don't know why I guess play on words there, but you see this takeoff, you might say, oh, the other mining stocks are going to push. Not so fast. Pump the brakes a little bit there because there is too much selling pressure on the way down here. Again, to the more like investor eye out there, you would just simply say, well, simply news came out on one stock and it didn't on the other. Well, yeah, of course, that makes sense here. That does. But in terms of sympathy plays, there are other folks out there that would think, well, if one goes, then the other should likely go. That often happens, but certainly not today. Certainly not here. So you need to realize where the selling pressure is, where the buying pressure is, of course, as well. But don't get too euphoric here at this point because obviously this will keep going up long term. But you got to see more buying pressure to make higher lows than a higher high. Right now, this is still lower highs. This is still making lower highs from earlier today. You know that, right? Now, here at this point, we got our next support technically at 1790, but I would say 18 is the larger consolidation level. Had a lot more volume built up there. So I would pretty much say as long as there's this 66,000 share order out there on the bid here at 1790 acting as like a support level, well, I'll say like the combination of these two prices together create that support. It's not just one price, it's both of them. This CVP, again, chart range volume profile. We teach that in class. Otherwise, right here, as long as this 66,000 share order on the bid is sticking out, the combination of those two prices will be support. Either way, once we see support get repetitively tested and poked at like this, especially in a shorter sitting, shorter time span like this, it's going to keep breaking. It's going to break lower. So right now it's still an okay standing because it hasn't done that just yet. But the day is young. The day is young, and we got support even lower here at 1750 here to get tested. And that's been out there since 9:30 in the morning. It's been out there since the market literally opened up. We got to put ourselves in the shoes of a 5-year-old at times. I got my 6-year-old niece Hannah. I got to put myself in the shoes of my niece Hannah. Like, why is this order out here since 9:30 in the morning? Why? Well, the more it's making lower highs and it's breaking this as support, I think we know why. I think we know what that's being used for, right? Being used as a potential target. All right, so we went over the miners quick. Those are going to be the more common ones for you to trade because they're volatile, and there's just a bunch of them that will make similar moves, but also different companies coming out with news at different times. So you'll get one, then another. But otherwise, it's all in relation to Bitcoin, right? So let me just break open the Bitcoin long-term graph here. I want to show you what's ahead. And if you're more focused on IBIT, this will be next for you. Because the BlackRock ETF came out like a number of months ago, and you might be scared to buy Bitcoin, but you might want to have a little skin in the game with the ETF, and a lot of us have been doing that. Again, full disclosure, I've been calling this out as a swing trade for like a couple of weeks at this point. My average price is 34.74 pretty much. It's on a tiny size position. It's just a swing. I'm just holding on. The hodl. It's a hodl, as they call it. Hold on for dear life. But seriously, I'm going to hang on to that for a long time. See what happens. But otherwise, I know a number of our students are as well. Now, getting back to the Bitcoin graph at least, and how IBIT will relate to it, Bitcoin actually just closed last night for this weekly candle. Its third highest weekly close, or fourth highest. Sorry, made that mess up last night when I tweeted that out. The fourth highest weekly close ever. Sounds pretty bullish to me. Sounds pretty bullish to me there. So that's just to say we're heading into the good part of the bull market. Traditionally, October, November, December, in the bull market season, every 4 years, that is. It's not every 1 year, but every 4 years, and specific to October, November, December, you are going to see a massive squeeze up. So it's my belief that we're going to get a big pop on this over time. Well, to what price? To what extent? Let's do that first, and then we'll talk about IBIT and how that will correlate. So, with how much Bitcoin BlackRock ETF has put into the IBIT, I would I would basically say that it's a direct correlation for right now. I think that IBIT and Bitcoin have a near 100% direct correlation. So use that to your advantage. But otherwise, what I like to do for targets is I like to use like this indicator. There's a couple of them that I'll poke at with fibs, but the fib extension and then the fib channel. I went over the fib channel maybe like 4 months ago, 3 months ago when we were talking about this. So maybe next week I'll try and bring that back up again. But otherwise, with the fib extensions here, watch this. Ready? Bottom, top, bottom. Now it creates these levels in which this will either hit as resistance as a target or otherwise break over that and, well, flip into support. So now at this stage, I'm using these prices here basically as targets. I got roughly 81,000. I think that there's a case that it just rips above that immediately. But otherwise, probably later on, I'll be more bullish, like to see it get up towards 120,000, 146,000. You got a couple people out there that are crazy that are thinking that Bitcoin's going to hit 500,000 next year in 2025. I will be glad to be wrong in that situation because I will try and hold on as long as I can. And I'm going to play this chart like I do any stock. Last cycle, I did not do that, and that's where I got too euphoric. So this go around, I definitely want to play this more traditionally like any customary chart. But with that here, I'm using basically these two fib extension prices as my targets, roughly around 135, 140,000, maybe more. If it goes up higher, great, but this would be a reasonable target for me. Okay, well, how does that compare to IBIT? If I'm telling you that IBIT has a near 100% correlation with Bitcoin, then simply put, just double the price of where it's at right now, right? Pretty much. So what's IBIT trading at currently, right now, today? 38.23. Break out your old calculator here for this one. 38.23 times 2, talking about $77 roughly. $77 as a target. I think that's extremely doable. And if we continue to see even more of a push on Bitcoin than I'm thinking, then maybe program trading kicks in and this gets close to 100. I don't know if we'll get that at this point, but if we can get up towards that 76, 77 target, just simply 2xing from where we're at right now, I'll be very happy. I think that's actually pretty reasonable. But you know what? Let's just jump to the heat map now because look at this. IBIT is making higher low. It might be trying to make a bounce heading into this afternoon's trading session here. So, how could we trade IBIT and how could we use Bitcoin actually on the heat map? So, this right here is actually Bitcoin. It's a combined on Bookmap here with a couple of exchanges. I think Binance and another one. So, just big data that it's using at least big buy and sell data, and it's not too difficult to read this. You got resistance at 70,000 on Bitcoin, on actual Bitcoin. Notice that beforehand here we had some buildup of volume. Not like there was one big spike compared to everything else. But notice once it broke above this one here, it popped up pretty nice. Well, I was looking for this to flip into support, roughly around 68,000, just this area. And it did. It started to. Did pretty damn good actually at first. Resistance did flip into support going into this morning's trading session overnight, but then it broke below it. Now, at this point, we're starting to pull back a little bit further, right? Or we were from earlier today. So as we zoom back in on this is kind of tough to read here if you zoom it in quite a bit. So I'll kind of take the heat map off. You could just see that same type of double bottom that's been building out since 11 o'clock Eastern time to right now. And that's where IBIT, the ETF, is doing the same exact thing. The same exact thing, right? So as far as trying to focus in on an entry or an exit for IBIT, I would say a good amount of that could be based off of just watching Bitcoin on Bookmap itself. This is actual Bitcoin. So over time, as you begin to see support get broken through, you got to realize that IBIT is more likely to go with it to a pretty good extent. Like at 9:15 this morning, when Bitcoin finally broke this support at the 68,000, it was right here, right? 9:18, a couple minutes later, but big break. Now, as far as where we might find support, mm, I mean, it's not as big as the resistance at 70,000, but I would say pretty much right around here. There's a few orange lines that are starting to show up now a little bit more frequently here, and that's good because that shows more volume on the bid, more buy orders out there over time. Now, are all of those going to get filled? I'm not too sure. I mean, it looks like a good amount of orders were even here earlier from like yesterday and from even the day before that potentially. But you know what's interesting though? Just focus on this one. Focus on this line. This is from like yesterday at 10 o'clock in the morning, over 24 hours ago. This is at 65,550. A very odd price number right there. I don't, focus on that random prices often, right? I mean, we focus more on the round numbers. Every $5,000, perhaps 65,000, 70,000, 75,000. Those are all more psychological levels. Whatever the hell this thing is, 65,550. Sounds like a phone number you text. So no, but seriously, it's been out there since 10 o'clock yesterday, probably even longer. Again, you got to put yourself in the shoes of my niece here and ask why is this out here for as long as it has been? Such a weird price. These orders disappeared. This one popped back up. Why? Why? Well, guess what? The more this makes a lower low coming up, if this breaks lower later today here at 66.8, whatever the bottom is here, it's my belief that we'll probably get this to drop a little bit more towards that 65.5. So I would just be mindful of that heading into this afternoon session. And that would obviously mean that Mara is more prone to dropping off heading into this afternoon, should that be the case. If this support level gets broken here, then I just feel like there's a pretty good chance that we'll see this get tested. It'll act as a potential bottom at that point. Now, if this just shoots right back on up, perfect. With higher lows, maybe get the higher high. But in terms of how to day trade any of these tickers, I mean, the miners we just covered there for the most part, but even IBIT, Well, shoot, if this $38 support line gets broken through, which is basically where we had the bottom on Bitcoin just before, right? Basically that bottom. This lines up with $38 right here. What's our next big support level below 38? 37, 36, 35. There's an even larger one, right? I would take this every dollar, trust every dollar pretty much on this IBIT. If you want to try and do some like percentage in terms of, seeing Bitcoin drop from 66.8 down to 65,550 and relate that percentage to IBIT, that would be pretty fair as well. I'm too lazy at this point in this workshop to break out the old calculator again to do that. But, if you want to do that on your dime, you could do that. But otherwise, I would say 37 would be your next big support. Then after that, 36, but maybe even 35 from there. All right. So that was a lot of words right there. That was a big word salad. All right. So if you have any questions on Bitcoin altogether, Bitcoin, the miners, IBIT, let me know. Maybe the one thing otherwise is like MSTR. This doesn't have as much of a direct correlation as IBIT. I mean, for as much Bitcoin as Sailor owns and MSTR has in its treasury, it's still not a direct correlation. This is not a mining company by any stretch of the measure, but this does not trade 100% with Bitcoin. Kind of treat this like any regular stock. All right. So I wanted to be more Bitcoin heavy for this traders talk. I wanted to kind of, have that out there and at least, going into the next 3 months, 6 months, everyone here inside our live trading room on social media, you could actually come back to this video and kind of, see what we were looking for at this exact time. My targets now right around 130 to 140,000, if not more. So let's get to a couple trades, at least just from a moment ago. I mean, we just talked about TerraWolf. We just talked about the mining stocks, at least. But man, I'll tell you, there's just a bunch of pop and drops out there. The Lumen we talked about, ISPC. I knew this would be a pop and drop. For as much as the nuclear stocks moved up last week, this is not a surprise. Seeing them pull back, so it's not like that was disappointing. Ooh, OKLO is actually a little strong today in relation to the SMR. SMR is down in the dumps right now. Ooh, NNE's having its day today, I guess. This is the other nuclear stock. All right, well, this one you can't really trade, though. This one's just too illiquid. It's just, I mean, if you're doing a swing trade and from last week, you're probably up a good penny, but this is just not really my cup. We're not doing this. My cup of tea. Untradeable. But OKLO might have some better strength to it, at least, has decent book, better orders out there. Could be a good one to keep an eye on heading into this afternoon. Again, more pop and drop stuff, though. LTBR is a loser. Drug, we knew that was going to be down today. This is another mining company. We talked about the miners enough. I want to stay away from like Bitcoin now for the remainder of this workshop. Save. This was at least a trade that got me some good money early this morning. Wasn't like really refrigerator material. Wasn't something I was going to send home to mom, but it was a nice trade. Got me money for a Monday morning, right? I mean, that's literally what we just talked about earlier. And for a Monday, you do want to take it that way. But if there's a stock that can pop pretty early within the morning, then you could try and ride it out until like 10:30 at least, right? And that's pretty much what we did here. That's pretty much what we did. And I know it moved up more after, but it was a good trade for while it lasted, while we were in it. So let me ask all of us here in chat. You got Lynn and Randy, Kathleen, Marcella, Kevin, Guy, all of us here in chat right now. Cheap stock like this, $2, $5 stock, cheap stock like this. What common set of price levels are we more often to find the iceberg orders? And again, if you're joining us on social media right now, I got a bunch of us today on @CyberTradingU, even CTU Josh on X. Just follow us @CyberTradingU though on YouTube. Hit the follow, hit the subscribe button right there. We go live every weekday, every morning, and then every Monday afternoon I come on here for a workshop. Do exclusive podcasts with other educators within the business. But otherwise, for all of our students in chat, 50-cent levels and whole numbers. Come on. We got to focus on those dollar levels like $2, 50-cent levels like $2.50. I mean, the answer was kind of on the wall here because it had a tough time breaking higher from $2.50 and then rejected. But this is just where I'll tell you, this morning, generally speaking, I am just thinking if this can break over $2 at some point, this can make for a good trade. All right. Well, that's a general thought. Now, when the market opened up, my man Gillis here, who wrote this before, look at this big volume dot, the opening bell print. Well, we normally focus on $2 anyway. You're telling me that the opening bell prints at exactly at the same price? I mean, pun intended, literally here, but 1 plus 1 equals 2, my friends. So when you got 2 as an assumed level anyway, and then this confirms it like definitively 1,000%, you got a near 750,000 share print that got filled right at the market open. Actually, let me go back on this. Yeah, I just caught this right now. You know what's funny? Market opened up 9:30. The stock came in at 9:34. It's the ever so rare delayed opening bell print. Maybe like 1 out of 100 times this shit happens where it like delays for like 2 minutes, or in this case, like four. This is a long one. You rarely see that happen, like 1 out of 100 times. So it goes to show while you want to wait until the opening bell print does hit, but otherwise 9:34, and then from there here's what happened. I took one break even trade in and out, basically same price. If it wasn't out at 201, it was out at 2. So like break even minus 1. It's break even to me either way. So, just it ended up folding, pulling back again, folding back down, pulling, folding, whatever. Tongue's getting tied. Now, to say though, this came back up and I retook the trade. I jumped back in off of 2, not just off the opening bell print, but again, got that big spike on the CVP. This makes it even more, easy to see, more notable. But once it rebroke and it gave me a chance to say, oh, maybe this could go. Because I don't want to just jump in and then hang on if it's going to shake back down. I mean, if I did that on Lumen, I wouldn't have a trading account today. Right? So you can't really just say, oh, that's easy to say after the fact. Look what happened on Lumen. That thing tanked. So I took a break even here on my first stab at it. And, I thought it was going to tank after. Fausto actually was the one that got me back in because he said, like, oh, it might be trying to inch back up. And I said, oh, shoot. Okay. So it pushed back up. I got in right off of 202 this time. And then from there, it ended up making a better run. I got out on half the trade at 219 or 220 even it was. And then the second half at like 215. So, decent money. It was a trade that made me money I didn't have before the market opened up. So I call it a win. Now, again, though, 10:30 reversal time. So I took the money and ran. It's a Monday. I'm not trying to be too aggressive, but it continued. It did push back up. It broke over that resistance that Fausto called out at 220. So there could have been a lot more room on this trade after. Like there could have been a re-entry. There could have been, at least for me to hold on more if I was already up as much. I wasn't. So I took the money here and I ran. But point being is that every trade begins with the entry and every entry begins with a big level, right? The same process, the same protocol that we teach here in Traders Talk every week. But mind you, we take a lot more time in our main curriculum, phases 1, 2, and 3 of our stock trading course here to go through that all. So just want to bring this up here for all of our members on YouTube that are not students. If you're looking to familiarize yourself with our curriculum, this is what we offer on a monthly basis. But for all of our students here, you certainly know we'll actually be continuing the phase 1 stock course just later on this afternoon. From Booker, before we jump, I got to jump onto a coaching call really quick. What do you think of SYTA or Bookmap? Let's go through that. Lightning round here. So let's see. SYTA. Not going anywhere. Already made its move. And that's easy to say looking at this regular graph here, because I could say this on most other stocks. Just anytime a stock has already popped and then dropped back down like that, it has the potential to make what's called a second wind type of move, where it catches a second wind. And it might pop back up to maybe like 210, 220. So is that still in play? Yeah. Is it worth my time more often than not? No. So I'm probably going to stay away from this myself, but it's got a good spread booker. It's not like it's untradeable. It's got a good order book, good spread. But it's just like normally most times where stocks pump and dump already, they just don't really make as much of a move after. It's that second wind. And hey, if you can get some money on it, good. Just make sure you know your worth on the trade. It's similar like I reckon like MULN where it dumped off, a little second wind move now. Now, since this had made its second win move. Is it possible that it could regain strength? And is it possible this can, make another pop? Possibly, but it needs to break through a big level on the way up to do that. And right now, it seems like there's a decent level here. So there's a difference. This is a lot closer to its highs now. So since that's the case, I'll have a little more confidence for this type of stock to run into the close compared to this. This has a ways to go to get back towards this area even. Um, it's possible it can make a little move up to begin, but otherwise, I'd go step by step. But even that, I would focus on stocks that are closer to set highs. I'd focus on that like wolf type of trade, closer to set highs. And hey, look what flipped essentially into support, trying to $6. All right, folks. Hey, we're going to finish up at least for right now. Again, if you're joining us on YouTube, Facebook Live, X, LinkedIn, etc., at Cyber Trading U is the handle on X, on YouTube. Make sure to follow us right there directly. Otherwise, hey, join us inside our live trading room at least. Scan that QR code, and then join us for a week-long trial just inside our trading room. Audio commentary in the morning, the afternoon, and then from there, we'll catch up with everyone at least inside our live trading room just later on today. Take care.